Welcome back to Let Me Tell You Something with Mr. Ty. That would be me. Let's get into it today. We got some hot topics. Please stay tuned. I think we're going to have a lot of fun. See you in a few seconds. All right. Good to see you. Good afternoon. Glad to be back. Welcome back. I hope everybody's doing good. And this is Let Me Tell You Something with Mr. Ty. That would be me. All right, we got some good hot topics today. Let's get started. Let's get right to it. And opening up the country. Opening up the country. That's the big talk that's going around. A lot of people demonstrating, keep it closed, open it up. Need to get back to work, et cetera. And it's stirring up quite a buzz around the country. The news said that he said they had it under control. That's right, that's what he said. They had it under control a few weeks back, as you recall. And he said it was going to magically go away. That's what he said. It's going to disappear and not to worry. You know, that's that. And yet, here we are. Okay. But getting back to open up the country, it is too soon, in my opinion. I mean, you know, you're getting a lot of people in restaurants. I'm sure you've heard about the reopening of nail salons, beauty salons, and tattoo parlors, etc., gyms, churches, and so forth. And I think this Monday, they're going to talk about opening up the mall. That's right, the mall. Now, if you get a lot of people gathering in these areas of social gathering and areas of high traffic, you have the mentality of some that they're not going to wear their PPEs. Okay, let's get into PPEs. They're not going to wear their masks. They're not going to wear their gloves. They're not going to social distance. They're going to be touching everything. And if you don't have your gloves on and your mask on, you're going to be walking into possibly clouds of droplets that come out of the mouths of those who cough and sneeze and even talking. You can walk into a cloud. Now, let me just give you a little education on that. If you cough or sneeze, you have these micro droplets. Now, they're so small, they go out into the air, and eventually they fall to the ground. But there's a smaller particles of liquid that may contain the virus that they continue to hover in the air for several minutes, maybe even up to an hour. I don't know the exact number of amount of time, but they hover in the air. And if you got a lot of people that are coughing and sneezing and so forth, you may have a lot of clouds in the mall, in other areas, restaurants, so forth and so on. If you don't have a mask on, that would help to keep you safe from getting infected. You could breathe in these microparticles in the air and not even know it. And I'm not saying this will happen to you. I'm just saying that it's a possibility that it could happen to any one of us, including myself. So at one point early on, they were saying, it's not necessary to wear your mask. And then they changed that up and said, well, yeah, maybe it'll be a good idea if you start wearing masks. So a lot of people are now starting to wear masks everywhere they go, which is good practice. And it helps. Now, in terms of the virus being on solid surfaces like handles, door handles, railings, countertops, display tops, packaging in stores, and the like. And if you don't have gloves on and you're in a store and you're picking up a product, examining it, as we all tend to do when we go out to the store to see if we want to buy it or not, we could be touching the virus that is on the surface of that product. And if you rub your nose or your eyes or your mouth, you could ingest that virus. Now, I'm not saying that will happen. I'm just saying there is that possibility of it happening. And that applies to everybody. You, people, me, everybody. So I would strongly suggest, and this is just a suggestion, you have to make your own decisions in these matters, but to wear gloves, rubber gloves of some kind. We've even used plastic bags from the grocery store to cover our hands sometimes if you run out of rubber gloves or something. Because I know some of the PPEs in terms of rubber gloves, the supply is short because the demand is high. Okay, well, you got to use your imagination and be creative. We use when our cereal box is empty, we've gotten the paper bag out of that and covered our hands. If you happen to have rubber gloves of different types, that's probably a little bit better. And of course, wear your mask. A lot of people are making homemade masks. I use the ones that you see in the clinics, the sort of paper ones, but I also have a cloth one over that one as well. And it's just a good measure of extra protection to keep yourself safe. So if you're one of those who are going to go out to some of these places that are now going to be reopened, just protect yourself as much as you humanly possibly can. Not only to protect yourself, but it helps in protecting others too. So the whole idea behind it is to stop the spread of the virus, okay? The spread of the virus, to stop the spread of the virus, or at least slow it down until the scientists and the medical scientists can get a hold on treatment and maybe a vaccine, but we got to do our due diligence to protect ourselves and others. Okay, so in my opinion, it's too soon to open it up the mom and pop stores. Now, I understand that some places are essential, like the grocery stores, the gasoline stations, and so forth. Those places are kind of essential and maybe should be open. We got to go buy our food. But when you go in these grocery stores, just remember some of the things that I said about protecting yourself and others. Try not to touch railings and products and handles and hand grips and things barehanded, things like that. Okay, so just kind of keep that in mind. Okay, just want to add one more thing about the opening of the country and so forth. We talked about the malls being open, which I didn't think was a good idea. And you know what? Before I get into that, Mr. Ty gonna remove his cool shades. Yeah, that's a lot better. Now, things are a lot brighter, and let's continue with that. I just want to touch on the reopening of the beaches and the churches. Now, with everybody getting bored with sheltering in place and running out of creative things to do to keep them entertained in the house, everybody wants to run out the door and go outside, grab their flip-flops and their swimming trunks and so forth and head to the beach. And I think they're saying, don't bring any coolers with food and drink, umbrellas and stuff like that. You bring your blanket so that you can swelter in the sun, and that will probably keep you off the hot sand. And then after 20 minutes of that, you'll go back home. Maybe you won't, I don't know. But like anywhere else, you got to keep your numbers down, to 10 or less in any given area. Your immediate family, I'm sure, is pretty okay, but people outside of your family, you don't want to have, 15, 20, 25, 30 people gathering in crowds. Nobody has any PPE, such as masks, gloves, anything like that. Everybody touching and hugging and whatever. So that might not be a good idea. So just use a little bit of common sense when you're going out to these social gathering places like the beach and so forth. Now, let's talk about going back to church. They're talking about reopening the churches. And again, the same rule applies, 10 people or less. But see, a lot of people, if you open up a church and you're the first 10 that's in the church to worship God and listen to the sermon and praising God and singing and all that, which is great. I got nothing against it, except that small number, you're going to have a lot of disappointed people that wouldn't be able to get into their place of worship and enjoy, praising God and listening to the sermon and singing and all of that. So with that in mind, a lot of ministers are now saying, well, we're going to remain closed, but instead of letting people into the church, the physical church, we're going to have church services online, and then the ministers can give their announcements, give their sermons, sing songs, and what have you online, and everybody can participate without physically being in their place of worship, which I think is a good idea at this time, because it is too soon, in my opinion, to reopen up the country, because we haven't tackled the spread of the virus well enough to reopen the country, because a lot of people have a mentality of not wearing, as I said before, their masks and gloves or sheltering in place. Now, there are some places that probably need to be open, but these are essential places such as grocery stores. We have to have a place to go to buy our food. We have to eat. And a lot of the grocery stores have programs where you can order your food online and they'll gather it for you, put it together, and then you can go and pick it up and they'll, bring it out to your car and so forth with your bill of sale and all that. Other companies are actually picking your food as you from your order, your online order, and taking it to your home. So there's options as opposed to going or not going to the physical grocery store itself. But those of you who prefer to go to the physical grocery store, you should use your PPEs, which is personal protective equipment, such as face masks, rubber gloves, and so forth. Because, when people go to stores, they're touching products, and I probably touched on this, earlier, but, they're touching food, they're touching products, barehanded, and you don't know who has what. So I would strongly advise to cover your hands and your face, your mouth and nose with masks. And when you get your food home, I would suggest that you wash your food thoroughly before consuming it. So anyway, those are just some things I wanted to mention about the beaches and the churches and going to different places that you have to go to, like the gas stations and so forth. You have to fill up your car with gasoline to get to work, to go to the grocery store and so forth. Okay, so that's that on that. Vaccines and treatments. Let's touch on that a little bit. So I've been doing a little research and watching the news just like everybody else has been recently. And I came across this article. Let me just share a little bit of that with you. It talks about the vaccines and treatments that the medical scientists are working on. Scientists at UPMC and University of Pittsburgh School of Medicine, scientists announced potential vaccine against SARS-CoV-2, which is the scientific name for COVID-19. They were saying that when tested in mice, the vaccine produces antibodies specific to SARS-CoV-2 coronavirus at quantities enough to neutralize the virus. I think that's a good thing. They're working on it as fast as they're able to. They were also mentioning how it's going to be delivered. It's delivered through a fingertip-sized skin patch. The delivery method is called microneedle array. Okay, that consists of 400 tiny needles that deliver spike protein pieces into the skin by way of a fingertip-sized patch. Okay, so I guess in a particular part of the body, you would get this tiny patch and put it on your skin, and it delivers this this medicine into the bloodstream, I guess. And so now I've heard that we should see a viable vaccine within 6 to 18 months. This is probably possible, especially with collective prayer. Yeah, we should pray on these matters collectively, and I think that collective prayer will probably help to bring about breakthroughs, which more to the point, which is, more to the point. I think that would be very helpful. Definitely couldn't hurt. In the meantime, keep sheltering in place, washing your hands for 30 seconds, wearing face masks, gloves, gowns, and other PPEs. What I normally do is when I'm washing my hands, I put a little hand sanitizer in with the soap, and they say at least 20 seconds, but I go the extra mile and wash, maybe 30 seconds. And then when I dry my hands, I put a little bit more sanitizer on my hands as well. But anyway, it's a little overkill, but it's better to do that than underkill, right? Okay, let's move on. All right, what we got here? Whoa, okay. Let me say that again. Disinfectant injections. Dun, dun, dun. Okay. I gotta say it. I gotta say it. Actually, I have no words. I have no words. I tell you, to express the idiocracy, shall we say? Boys and girls, can you say idiotic? The very definition of idiotic means very stupid. Look it up. Look it up. The very definition of idiotic means very stupid. Okay, so sadly enough, I heard a report last week of 2 men that had to be rushed to the hospital because they ingested, as in drank, bleach. And I gotta tell you, don't do this at home. please don't do this at home. When you hear people talk about injecting disinfectants and drinking bleach and stuff like that, please ignore that, because your body, that would make you sick. That would make you very, very sick. And that's, or worse, it's just not the thing to do. Please don't drink any type of disinfectant or alcohol, utility type alcohol, bleach, and the like. Just don't inject it, don't drink it, or anything like that. Don't wash up in it. The only thing that's used for is cleaning your floors and your countertops, utensils and stuff like that. It's not meant to be consumed. It's not meant for human consumption, put it like that. In other words, it's not meant to eat, swallow, or drink. Disinfectants are not meant for the human body to be put into your stomach or your veins. Just don't do it. Anyway, so as a matter of fact, I did a pilot video a couple of years ago, and it talks about this very sort of thing. In other words, it addressed how you should never do stupid things. And one day I'll put that out there. It might make you laugh, but it also, I hope, would make you think, about doing really stupid things. Okay, one day I'll air some of those clips. Okay, so don't take or ingest or drink or inject any kind of disinfectant. Okay? Or any substance that is harmful to your health. Just don't do it. I strongly suggest that you do not do this, okay? All right. Good. Stimulus checks. I hope that most of you have gotten your stimulus checks because of the economic situation that this virus has put us into. It's really terrible what a lot of people and families are going through economically. They've lost their jobs. This virus has caused a ripple effect, and my heart goes out to them. But please continue to do whatever it is that you can do in terms of your due diligence to receive any type of relief funding. Do your research online, talk to people, to just see if there's anything that you can do out there. I'm sure there must be something that can be done. But also, one terrible thing that I've heard about is that some individuals are out there actually removing stimulus checks from people's mailboxes. Yes, that's stealing, and that is a crime. It may even be a federal crime, I'm not sure, but it's a crime that you probably not want to commit. And not only that, you're taking from other people. You don't know the situations of other people. You don't know what they're going through. You don't know what their needs are. They need that money as much as you do. And if you're an individual that's doing this sort of thing, then I would strongly suggest that you stop that and do your due diligence to find out how to get funding for yourself, as I just mentioned earlier. But leave other people's money alone. It's just not a good thing to do. Okay. It's bad enough that we're going through all of this viral hardship, which rippled its way to our economic way of life and our social way of life. and it's just bad enough. And to go to your mailbox expecting your stimulus check and it's been taken from you, that's got to be the lowest of the low, you know. But as I said in my first video Let Me Tell You Something, all of this that we're going through now is all about us returning to the instructions of God, being good to each other is part of God's instructions for us. We are to love one another as we love ourselves. Taking things from others that would benefit them, especially in these times, is profoundly, I should say, profoundly terrible, a terrible thing to do. And it separates you from God. You know, because you're doing something against others when you should be loving them and helping them through this. You know, we got to help each other through this because we're all in this together. You know, we're all in this together. So, I mean, I would say, woe be unto you who commit these kinds of acts against one another, you know? Actually, we're supposed to be doing the opposite, giving to others, which brings you closer to God. I mean, we all have free will, and we all have choices. But I think it's incumbent upon us to use our free will wisely and make the best choices for ourselves and others, you know, so that we can get through our trials and tribulations and problems and issues that we all may have. You know, try to make the best decision that you can and seek out help from others, because we're all in this together and we're supposed to help each other as much as we're able to. And if we can't help somebody, at least maybe we can direct them to someone who can, or something. But, you know, doing harm to others and taking from others when they need it is not the right choice. It's not using your free will wisely, in my opinion. Okay, so just think about that. You know, one of the points of my little program here is to give you food for thought, to lift you up, maybe a little bit of helpful information in terms of what we're going through with this virus, and information in terms of God's instructions as we go through the situation with this virus. And a lot of the things in God's word is directly related to what we're going through now, because similar things have happened thousands of years ago, and similar things have happened not too long ago, in terms of just a few years ago, you know. And I said that in my first video. So if you go to my first video, which was about a month ago, you know, it's on YouTube. I talk a little bit about that. So this is the time to rid ourselves of sinful burdens as a people and as individuals, such as discrimination, racism, oppression, violence, and disparity between the races. And if you don't think so, open your eyes wide open and take a look around. That's all you need to do, is open your eyes and take a look around you. The time is now to treat each other well and continue to always do so, even when times are good. We treat each other well all the time. Got to do that all the time. And when we do that, we get closer to God, because see, when we obey God and come to Him, He shines His face on us and takes care of us and keeps us from things like this happening. And if you don't believe this, I'm not making this up. You can research this in the scriptures, in the Bible for yourself, because it's all through the Bible. It's all through the Bible about how God allows certain things to happen when man gets a little bit too big for his britches, you know? So this is one of the things that I try to promote in terms of what we should do to get closer to God, to be protected while we're here in this life and on this earth. Okay? So I'm going to leave you with a few scriptures to think about, to ponder, food for thought, and so forth. Okay? Let me just get that for you right quick. I think I'm going to start off with, let's see. Well, I tell you what, okay. Let's start off with, okay, we're going to start off with Psalms 23. Okay, and the reason I like to include that in my cast here is because of what we're going through with this COVID-19. Okay, it just seems so fitting. Anyway, the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He leads me in the path of righteousness for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil. For thou art with me, thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou anointest my head with oil. My cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. You know, yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I mean, that's, to me, is so fitting because that's what we're doing here. We're walking in the valley of the shadow of death. We're walking in the valley of COVID-19. And many of us have died because of COVID-19, and that's the shadow of death. But when you raise your head and look up to God, and you worship God, and you praise God, and you obey his instructions to the best of your ability, at least attempt to practice it, try to something in that direction, he'll help you, he'll strengthen you. Because you can do all things through Jesus Christ who strengtheneth you. But when you do that, as he has instructed us to do, he will heal the land. He will take care of you. And that's in the scripture. That's not me. That's not Mr. Ty talking. This is Mr. Ty telling you what God said in his word. Okay, so just think about it. And if you don't believe me, check it out for yourself. It's all there. Okay? All right. And I want to get to Leviticus 19, verse 18, which says, thou shalt not avenge nor bear any grudge against the children of thy people, but thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself. I am the Lord. Okay? So there again, love thy neighbor. Treat people well. When you treat, God is pretty firm on that. He wants you to treat each other well. The next one I want to get to is Matthew 5, verse 44. Okay? All right. But I say unto you, love your enemies, bless them that curse you, do good to them that hate you, and pray for them which despitefully use you and persecute you. You know, I know many of us have had people to do them wrong and to use you and despite you and all that, but don't lash out at them. You know, don't be violent towards them. Pray for them. Be kind to them. You know, it puts hot coals on them when you be nice to people who are not so nice to you. And what that means is it really messes with their minds. Say, whoa, you know, I expected them to lash at me, but they've been nice to me. And you could possibly even sometimes with some people being kind to them who weren't kind to you can put something on their mind and then they wind up changing for the better. I've seen that happen and it has happened. But don't lash out at them, especially in any violent way. Just, if anything, if you don't want to be around them or say anything to them, just pray for them at the very least. At least just pray for them. Okay? And then I want to go to 1 John chapter 4, verse 20 and 21, which says, now this is one of my favorites, one of my new favorites. Now think about this. Now this is deep. Okay, wait for this. Watch this, watch this, watch this, watch this, watch this. This is great. If a man say, I love God, and hateth his brother, he is a liar. That's what it says right here. I'm reading the words. If a man say, I love God, and hateth his brother, he is a liar. For he that loveth not his brother, whom he hath seen, how can he love God, whom he hath not seen? And this commandment have we from him, that he who loveth God love his brother also. In other words, you got a lot of people out here, you know, they go into church, they say they love God, they praise God, they worship God and all that, but as soon as they get out of church, they're prejudiced against their neighbors or people who are different from them. They're treating them mean, some of them treating them violently. Okay? And this sort of thing. If you treating another individual, another person badly, when you come out of church where you just said, well, I love God, then you are a liar. Now, that's not Mr. Ty saying that. That's God himself saying that. Look it up. It's 1 John chapter 4, verses 20 and 21. That's not Mr. Ty's words. That's God's words. If you say you love God and you treat your fellow man badly in some way, whether it's through discrimination, hatred, violence, or anything or the like, then you're a liar. You don't love God because that is not of God. That is not loving God when you treat other people in that manner. So you're a liar. Now, if you don't want that to be a lie, then I would strongly suggest to you to start treating your neighbor well. And I've just given you several scriptures where God has said, love thy neighbor as you love yourself. You love yourself, don't you? Then treat other people the way you treat yourself. Would you perform violence against yourself? Would you discriminate against yourself? And the like? No. You treat yourself well, but you don't treat other people well. So if you don't treat other people well and you claim you love God, then you're a liar because God says you're a liar. That's right. Now, if you don't want to be a liar in that respect, then I suggest that you turn your life around, give it some thought, give it some prayer, turn your life around and start treating people with respect and dignity. Treat them like you would treat yourself. Treat others as you would have them treat you. Just be kind. And at the very least, I mean, you don't have to hug them and kiss them and all that if you feel uncomfortable doing that, but at the very least, at least tolerate them and leave them alone and go about your business. Just be kind to people in some way. Be kind to people in some way. Treat each other well. And you'll be blessed for it. Because you'll be closer to God. And that's what you want to do. Trust me on that. Trust Mr. Ty on that one. Okay? So, that's about it for today. If you like us, you can like us. Okay? Love you. Be kind to each other. Stay home and be safe. Wash your hands, put your face mask on, put your rubber gloves on, stop touching stuff barehanded and the like. And I will see you guys next time on Let Me Tell You Something with Mr. Ty. All right. Be good to one another. See you next time. Love you. Be safe. Bye.